Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Leading from Alignment with our good friend John Opalewski. Happy New Year, John. How are you?
Jim, I'm good. It's so good to see you, and always nice to chat with you before we start recording and just catching up with this. So I'm doing great. I'm excited about 2021.
Right. Same here. Speaking of years, today's, kind of the course that we're set on is your reflections on 2020. And it's funny. I remember looking at 2020, the 2020 vision. We're going to do this in 2020. I think first of all, people are relieved that 2020 is now in the rearview mirror,
Yeah.
not out the windshield. But secondly, what an extraordinary year of change, of challenge, of transition. It really is a gold mine. And I think we can make big mistakes by saying, well, we just can't wait for things to go back to normal, or saying, well, what did we really learn? And what might the new normal look like? So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So lead us on.
So Jim, I think it's not hyperbole to say that 2020 was the toughest year ever for most of us and most of those who are listening today.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, probably the year most of us learn more than we ever have.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning of a new year, I have this practice, this habit, I guess you call it, of reflecting on the year that just ended and identifying the top 3 lessons the year prior has taught me. And so that's kind of where I'd like to go in our discussion, our conversation today. And let me just confess that narrowing down the lessons that I learned in 2020 to just 3 was super challenging.
Right. Yeah, this is the first 3, part 1 of 17, right?
It could be.
It really could be. Yeah.
So
give us number 1. What was the number, when you say the number 1 thing I learned in 2020, what was it?
That the ministry I lead isn't mine.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? I get a picture when you say that, but what do you mean specifically by that?
So it belongs to God. Ultimately, it belongs to God. And Jim, it never was mine to begin with.
Right.
But the uncertainty of 2020 brought that home to me. Yeah. And I've learned, I think I've learned a deep lesson. I think this is a deep lesson. Maybe it is just for me. But Converge coaching is going to grow to the size God wants it to. Right. And to a size that's safe.
Yeah.
For me and for my team. And safe means safe for our mental and emotional health. Safe for our marriages. Yeah. Safe for our relationship with God.
Yeah.
It's still my responsibility. It's still your responsibility to plant seeds and to water and to be diligent, to work hard, to work smart. But it's ultimately God's responsibility to make those seeds do something, to bring fruit forward. And it sounds almost like a well-done lesson, but for me, Jim, it was a huge lesson for me.
Yeah. Well, it is a well-done lesson until 2020, and then the rubber met the road. It either is, and you can sleep at night, or it isn't, and you're not sleeping at night.
Right.
And that revelation that I really am in his hands. This really is in his hands. I really am a steward of his resource, his timing. There's great liberty in that knowledge, or great bondage outside of that knowledge in 2020.
And it's so interesting in a year, Jim, where there wasn't a lot of peace externally.
Right. Yeah.
I had more peace about Converge coaching in 2020 than any year prior.
Yeah.
And I think the big contributor to it was that understanding that, man, this is just not my thing. It's not about John Opalewski. It's not mine. It is God's, and I can trust him with it. He's not going to fumble the ball. He's going to handle it with great care.
Right. I love that. And I hope that as people look into 2021, they hear those words. If you didn't have that in your heart in 2020, you've paid the price by now. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that happened on January 1st, we're well into January now, but the only thing that happened on January 1st that wasn't there December 31st is there's a new calendar date.
Right.
There's a lot of the issues still exist. So it isn't too late. This is not just a rearview mirror thing. This is looking out the windshield still. There's still a lot of issues that if you face them with faith, you just face a very different set of questions than if you face them all by yourself.
Right. And I think the mental and emotional health of leaders across the board, Jim, would improve greatly if we just came to that conclusion that this baby doesn't belong to me.
Yeah.
And that can be, and I can trust God to take good care of it. I'll do my part. He will definitely do his part. So that was a huge thing that I learned in 2020.
I hope they heard that you can till the earth, you can plant the seed, you can choose the crop, but it's God that makes it rain.
That's right.
And there's nothing in it. I've never met a farmer that didn't have greater faith than my own. And I think that's why there's certain things that only God can do. And they spent their entire life trusting God to do those things. Right. And they just face times like this differently. Yeah. What's the second one of all the things you learned in 2020?
Here's the second one, Jim. I have nothing to prove.
What do you mean by that?
Well, can I just say it again because it feels so liberating to say it? I have nothing to prove, and I don't mean that in a cocky, I don't care what anybody thinks kind of way.
Right.
I don't mean it like that. I don't mean it like some sort of whatever will be fatalism type of thing. I don't mean that at all. Here's what I mean. Is that I don't have to try to impress you with my gifts, with my accomplishments, or with anything else for that matter. Wow. I only need to be the best version of who God made me to be.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Jim, I've had moments in the past where I've latched onto that, and then I've lost it for some reason.
Yeah.
But it seems like in 2020, the Lord allowed me to just get comfortable with how he's put me together, and that I don't have to give my resume every time I meet somebody.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to do that, Jim, when I meet somebody of stature, somebody who would be, coined a big hitter, or
Right.
Somebody who I think, if they became my friend, somehow it would help us grow the ministry. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That I don't have to impress you. I don't have to. And again, that doesn't mean when I meet you, I'm sloppy or I'm not thoughtful about what I say or how I behave. But I don't have to try to paint a picture of myself that isn't accurate.
Right.
I don't have to impress you. I have nothing to prove.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing how many times Jesus did something really miraculous and told people, now don't tell anybody I did that.
Yeah.
There almost is a glory in anonymity. There's a glory in the miracle, and he was trying to point at, my Father's awesome and I'm here to show you how to live. So if at the end they say, wow, John's awesome, you've missed the lesson. The point of it is God is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you talk about, important friends that might be able to help you in life. I think one of the things that important people have in common is a suspicion of people that do present their resumes in their opening paragraph. They know right away, this guy's not really interested in me. My wife is friends with someone who is a multimillionaire, even billionaire. And what's funny is the thing they have in common is there were seasons of their life they didn't know who they could trust. They didn't know, are you my friend because I'm the pastor's wife? Are you my friend because I'm wealthy? Are you my friend because of what I can do for you?
Yes.
And that was the thing that actually gave them peace with each other, is we are so accustomed to people treating us in a way we don't know why they're treating us this way. And there was a distrust that created an isolation, that created a loneliness.
Right.
And it's funny that they had that in common. So what does a pastor's wife and a billionaire have in common? It sounds like a joke, like, the Pope walks into a bar. The answer is nothing but this one thing. They found refuge in the sincerity of that relationship.
And it's interesting, Jim, that when I lay down that desire to impress you or prove something to you, it's almost as if there's no defensiveness then. There's much more openness in the relationship. And the truth is that doors have opened to us in 2020
Right.
that are surprising doors. There are wonderful doors.
Yeah. Yeah.
With some of these individuals that in the past, I would think, I've got to impress this guy. I've got to make him think I'm something special. And
Yeah.
when I was just myself, how God created me, put me together,
Yeah.
it seemed like it was disarming in a way, and almost as if there was trust almost right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. I think another way to put it is God will never give you grace to be something he didn't create you to be. God will never bless your imitation of somebody else.
Right.
So the blessings of the Lord rest in being who God made us to be. And that's, yeah. The third thing, because our time is kind of starting to run short, believe it or not. What's your thought on the third thing?
So the third most important thing I learned in 2020 is that God is shaking his church.
Yeah. Huge.
I'd like to read you an entry from my journal, Jim, back in July of 2020. I hope that's okay. It's a short entry.
Yeah.
So here's what I wrote. I wrote a prayer to the Lord. I said, Lord, as I think about where our country is and where it's heading, I feel anxious. At times, I feel hopeless. I wonder if we are living in the last days. Father, I need your perspective. Above all of the loud voices shouting right now, help me to hear your voice, to locate peace, and to understand as much as possible the view from heaven. So I wrote that in my journal.
Yeah.
And then after writing that, Jim, I paused and I just waited for a few minutes to listen to see if God might respond to that.
Yeah.
And it didn't take very long. Here's what I heard in my spirit. John, I am shaking my church. The consumers, the pretenders, and the rebellious are being pruned away. I have divine purpose in what I'm allowing to happen. And Jim, amazingly, after hearing that from the Lord, even though that wasn't really great news in a sense, there was there's some seriousness to that response.
Yeah. Very sober.
There was a tremendous amount of peace that came to my heart. God is pruning away consumers, pretenders, and rebels. And I think that what remains will be much easier to pastor.
Right. Right.
I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I just have this sense that people who are rebellious, who are consumers, who are pretenders, consume a disproportionate amount of a pastor's time and energy and thought life. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think I can prove your hypothesis in a microform, and that is that what day is better at church as far as the kingdom advancing, as far as engagement, as far as a sense that we're all in unity in one spirit and one accord. Is it Christmas Eve, Easter, the big outreach, or is it the snow day when only the people that drive an hour through the blizzard, the guy in the subdivision behind the church can't make it, it's too dangerous. But the widow that lives half an hour away, that she left an hour early to get here, those days, the spirit, in my experience, the spirit moves better during blizzards than he does during big pageant days. Now, I'm not saying people don't get saved, but I'm saying that when the church shows up, and I like that word consumer, because we have been tempted for the last 50 years to create a mega church. The word mega is never used to describe the church in Scripture. And I have nothing against large or small. I think the size is irrelevant, but the church is a very definable thing, and mega would be a wrong descriptor of what God means when he says church. So I look at, if church is a product to be consumed, then what have we made the average attender but a consumer? And a consumer has to be pleased, and a consumer has to be tickled, and a consumer has to be, or they go consume something else somewhere else. Yeah. So, and I understand the model of being seeker sensitive. I understand but it's observational, by no means critical of any strategy to be lost. But I would just say that I like you're saying, I think church is going to be better because of the blizzard than it has been because of the pageant. Because the church, the capital C church, will come to capital C congregation that will, I think worship is going to be better, even though the music may not be as good. I think the sermon is going to be better received, even though the sermon may not be better. because God's people are just, it's real now.
Yeah.
It's not what good people do. It's not the American tradition. You're there to love on Jesus or find him, or you're not. And there's no reason to go anymore. It doesn't make you a good person or a bad person if you don't go. So I agree completely. Yeah. So the three things for 2020, I am curious, people can leave their comments, I know on the YouTube channel here. I'm curious what their observations might be. I think there'll be some good conversation. Like I said,
I'd love to hear it.
3 out of the 300 you could have, but those are solid. So once again, it's just good, man. It's just good to sit at the city gates. I don't mean to call you an elder chronologically, but with wisdom. And we're grateful for your insights and your input into our lives, John. So God bless you, and God bless our listener. If you are here today and you're like, I would love to talk more. My takeaways from 2020 is I don't know that I'm going to be in ministry in 2021. Or your takeaway is it's not gotten better. The calendar changed. My circumstances haven't. My church is doing well. My marriage is struggling. Whatever that is. This is not a counseling ministry, but if you need counseling, we're going to help you. It's a ministry that provides a lot of counsel, though it's not a counseling ministry. The wisdom of John and the other parts of Converge are here at your disposal. And John, if they wanted to get a hold of you just to have a conversation about maybe how you might be able to serve them and Converge can serve them in 2021, how would they do that?
Best way is to go to our website, convergecoach.com, Jim, and click on the contact us link, and that starts the conversation with us. It's the first 30 minutes are just free and no obligation to us. And we have a great team here, and so I'm not always the one helping. We've got some really talented individuals that serve on our team, and so we place people with the people we think will help them the most. And so that's how you can reach to us if you would like to begin a conversation. Easy breezy. Yep. So thank you, John, for your time. God bless you. And we're continually, daily, always to pray for you as you continue to lead from alignment.